Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos. Hope your work week's off to a good start. We got baseball coming up in a matter of moments from Omaha, Nebraska. Elimination game on LSU's side. And then tonight, as you're all well aware, LSU and Wake Forest will battle for the catbird seat in this bracket. Fired up to be with you for the next 2 hours. We'll go up to Omaha twice during this show. Once in the first hour at 1:30, where Matt Trent's going to join us. He's from WBRZ. He and Cobble up there running around, so we'll talk to Matt Trent coming up in 30 minutes. And then at 2:30, Charlie is going to check in with us. We'll have a little bit more information about this game. We'll kick that around and then talk LSU and Wake with Charlie Hanagriff in an hour and a half. But we start with Saturday night. Let me paint you this picture. On Saturday night, I'm sure there are some of you listening that were in a fairly similar spot. My wife wanted to go to Mass on Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock. I said, that's great. I'm looking to kill some time on this day. Let's go to Mass at 4 o'clock. It'll end at 5. We can head on back home, be locked in for 6 o'clock first pitch. So we left Mass at 5 o'clock. Lovely. We're headed home. And I wanted to stop in at Superior and grab a margarita. We'll pregame, pick me up there. So I did. And when I walked into Superior on Government Street at 5:06, just a hellacious storm came into Baton Rouge. I mean, blowing flags into the street, literal hail coming down all over the place. 45 minutes before the game's supposed to start. And I get home at about 5:12, 5:15, and I have no electricity. I am 45 minutes from the game starting, supposed to start at 6. I have an 18-month-old who needs to eat dinner. I have no electricity, and the game's about to start. And I am not in a great spot mentally, quite frankly. I'm a little flustered. I don't know where we can go that has power, that can feed the 18-month-old, that I can watch the game and have a big enough TV to see it. It was a bad spot I was in. They moved the game back to 6:35, we know. And that gave me an extra 35 minutes to figure things out. Shout out to the Donahues who had us at their house. Was able to watch 4 innings there, get the child fed, didn't miss a pitch, and then in the 5th inning, we found out we had power, so we drove home, and we watched the end of the game. But that was quite a turn of events on Saturday afternoon as I'm 45 minutes from the game starting, and literally a 12-minute thunderstorm with massive hail threw everything out of kilter. But the good news, after all that, is that LSU handed the baseball to Paul Skenes. And that is a good thing to do. I said something about 6 weeks ago that I now will not stand by. 6 weeks ago, we broke down the Aaron Nola, Paul Skenes debate. And I settled on Aaron Nola. Aaron was remarkably consistent his last 2 years at LSU. He was dominant. He was clutch. He was durable. He pitched deep into games. And I said I would take Aaron Nola if I had one game over Paul Skenes. Because at that point, Paul Skenes was struggling a little bit to pitch into the 7th or 8th inning. He was settling in about 6 innings because the pitch count was getting very elevated, partly due to a lot of strikeouts. And Aaron always pitched into the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning. I cited back in his junior year, he threw 4 straight complete games in SEC play at one point. 4 straight 9-inning complete games against SEC teams. He always got deep into games. And Skenes wasn't. Now he is. And they can't hit him. He is as dominating a college pitcher as I have ever laid eyes on. Tennessee can hit a little bit. They're not nearly what they were last year. They can hit a little bit. They were flat out overmatched on the biggest stage. And I think maybe a play that we won't talk about but might have been the most underrated play in the game, was in the first inning. Skenes strikes Ahuna out, and then Inslee gets the infield single to short. And then Dickey hammered a ball. He got a 2-0 count with the runner on first base, and he hit a rocket right at Tommy White for an out. If that ball hooks down into the corner, Tennessee scores a run on a double there. Maybe it looks a little bit different. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does. But it goes right into to Tommy White for the second out of the first inning. And then he strikes out Christian Moore. And then in the second inning, 1-2-3 to Denton, 1-2-3 to Merritt. And then he goes 0-2 to Burke, who actually worked to a 3-2 count. And then he struck Burke out too for his fourth straight strikeout. It was almost an immaculate inning if he'd have struck Blake Burke out on the 0-2 pitch. But at that point, he was settled in, he was comfortable, and there was nothing Tennessee could do. The thing with Skenes is sometimes if you're a pitcher, you may not have your best stuff, whether it's command, whether it's spin, it just doesn't feel right. Sometimes you don't have your best stuff. But with Skenes, he's always going to have 101. That doesn't take any days off. Sometimes the changeup grip's not there for pitchers. Sometimes you just don't quite have the feel for a breaking ball. You just don't have your best stuff. But for Paul Skenes, he's always going to have 100 miles an hour to lean back on. That shows up every single start. So, he's had great command every single time out, but the fastball's always there. But what I said on Friday about the key to Paul Skenes' start on Saturday was he had to keep Tennessee off the fastball. And I said he needed to throw the slider. He needed to throw it early in counts. He needed to use it to get strikeouts. He needed to use that slider to keep Tennessee from cheating to the fastball. Well, he did a little bit, but he used the changeup on Saturday more than he has used it all year. I don't have that in front of me, but I noticed it watching the game, and I was listening to the Go Vols 247 podcast yesterday reacting to the game, and Ben McKee, who we had on the show on Friday, said he talked to Hunter Inslee after the game, and Inslee said that they did not anticipate seeing as many changeups as they did, and that makes it impossible. When you have to gear up for 101, that's tough anyway. But when the possibility is that 89 could be coming out of the same arm slot with basically the same spin and it just vanishes, like now all of a sudden you're trying to fight two battles. You're trying to fight the cheat out to get to the fastball early, but in the back of your head that Uncle Charlie might be right behind it. It's just too much. And at this point, Skenes is just a machine. In his 3 NCAA tournament starts, Tulane, Kentucky, and Tennessee, 24 and a third innings of work, 16 hits, 4 earned runs, one of which he was given because Guidry gave up the home run. But 4 earned runs, 33 strikeouts, and 2 walks. 33 strikeouts and 2 walks. The ERA in the postseason, 1.48. And again, that was hurt a little bit because Guidry came in and threw that cement mixer up there that gave up the homer. But I want to be very clear now out on the record, while Aaron Nola was just sensational, the greatest pitcher I've ever seen at LSU is Paul Skenes. This is remarkable what he's doing. And I felt a sense of pressure entering the game because you just feel like you have to win behind Skenes. This team is built to win behind Skenes and then figure out the rest. You're built to win behind Skenes on a Friday of an SEC series and then try to figure out the last 2 games. You're built to win in the regional behind Skenes. I would have thought game 2, but got you to game 1. You're in Omaha there to win behind Skenes and then get him back as quickly as you can. And that feels like some pressure, but when it's over and you look back on it, you go, why'd I even worry about that? They're not going to score. And they almost didn't. If Guidry makes 1 pitch, they wouldn't have scored. I was okay with Jay Johnson going to the bullpen there. I mean, yes, I have no issue at all with Paul Skenes throwing 123 pitches. I don't think that's some sort of overwork. But you start getting up over 130, and all of a sudden I start feeling a little differently. And the velocity was still there. He still felt good. I didn't feel like you were near him physically wilting. But in terms of his health, his future, and the situation of the game with the 5-0 game, I thought it was just fine to ask your bullpen to get 4 outs. I thought that was fine for Skenes, and I thought that was fine for the team. And, Guidry made a bad pitch, So, hey, go get Cooper. And Cooper was great. Cooper did his job. He was in the strike zone. He was missing some bats. And LSU got it done. We're going to talk about the offensive guys here in the next segment before we get to Matt Trent at 1:30. But I think just for me, looking back on that game, it's really difficult to find another place to start other than Skenes. He's just that good. And so LSU's job now is to win 2 more baseball games and get the ball to him one more time. It'll either be to extend the season on Thursday and get into the championship series, or it will be in game 1 of the championship series on Saturday. I laid it out for you at the beginning of last week. I said, here's how it has to work for Skenes to get as much work as he can. LSU needs to start 3-0 and win the bracket. And that's the best way. That's the only way you're going to get him a championship series start, unless you feel more comfortable enough going to somebody else in Thursday's game. But I just can't imagine that. Thursday is enough rest for Skenes to come back. That's full Major League Baseball rest, which he will be on next summer. He would have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to rest before a game on Thursday. But LSU's got to win a couple baseball games between now and there. They'll get their first chance tonight. So they'll take on Wake Forest at 6 o'clock. Tennessee and Stanford underway in an elimination game, and goodness gracious, is this one going to be fun to keep an eye on this afternoon. You got Chase Dolander going for Tennessee. You've got Quinn Matthews on the bump for Stanford, 2 of the best arms in college baseball, and one of them will continue their season. The other is going to be done. Tennessee is the visiting team. They are out. They got a leadoff single to start the game. And then Quinn Matthews just got a fly out. So 1 out as they are underway up there at the Schwab in Omaha. We'll take a time out, come back and talk some hitting. Dug up a stat on Dylan Cruz. It's unbelievable. And something that we may be looking for over the next couple of days. That's next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathandClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team have been in this business for 30 years, redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Not a great time for everybody to move right this second. So if you're looking to improve your living situation, you can do it under the roof you've currently got. David Duvall and his team can help you on the bathroom side. They can do full-scale bathroom renovations, soup to nuts, as he says it. They do the entire thing. One call to one contractors, One Bath and Closets. Maybe it's not a full-scale renovation. Maybe you just want a tub-to-shower conversion. You don't use your tub, would love a gorgeous glass walk-in shower. They can make that happen over at One Bath and Closets. Go to the website. You can see the testimonials. You can see the pictures. They're great work. And you can request that free consultation with David and his team. Check out that website, onebathandclosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit...
Hey there, little buddy.
Post Office
What's
Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
When is a a taco more than just a taco when it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Bayou Ford has up to $7,000 off MSRP plus 0% financing on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust.
Charles Hanagriff, our Omaha home for the College World Series is the Ameristar Casino and Hotel in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just minutes away from downtown Omaha. Enjoy the only casino buffet in the area and a full sports book. Eat, watch, and bet at the Ameristar Casino and Hotel.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Vols threaten. They do not score in the first. Got a couple of hits off of Quinn Matthews, but first and third with one out, fly ball to left field. Left fielder makes the catch and throws a seed to the plate to get Maui Ahuna, who didn't even slide. He was out by 3-4 steps at home plate. So Stanford thwarts an early scoring opportunity for the Vols. Keep you updated on that one as we continue to move through the show. Back to Saturday's game for LSU, and we'll talk a little about LSU and Wake Forest with Matt Trent in 15 minutes and then in hour number 2 as well. But I wanted to talk about the game on Saturday because I think it's worth talking about. Braden Jobert obviously had a huge game. 3 hits, almost hit for the cycle. If he doesn't hit the pitcher with that ball up the middle, he probably does hit for the cycle. And Jobert, to me, is kind of a microwave man. And he's been a little bit more consistent this year than he was last year. But, I mean, you've seen this guy go on stretches there, he can just almost carry the team. Last year at Florida, in 2 games, he was 4 for 9 with 3 homers in Gainesville. Last year in Nashville against Vanderbilt, he was 6 of 12 with a double, a triple, and 3 home runs. He had a 9 RBI game in that weekend in Nashville to end the season, and you obviously saw him really seeing the baseball on Saturday, and he crushed the ball out of the yard, hit another one that is a homer at the box, ended up being a triple, and like he was locked in on Saturday, and that's a guy who can get piping hot. Now, you're going to probably see a left-hander tonight. We assume Hartle's going to pitch, so that may change things a little bit, but he's a guy that can get really, really hot, and that would be a very, very welcome sight for this team if he did that for a 2, 3, 4-game stretch. Speaking of hot, Dylan Cruz is in fuego at this point. If you didn't see the stat that I put on Twitter earlier today, Cruz has multiple hits in 6 of his last 7 games. He's been on base 22 times in the last 7 games. That is better than 3 times per game he's getting on base. That is obscene. And I mentioned that he's gotten multiple hits in 6 of his last 7 games. The one game where he only got 1 hit in that stretch, he had 4 walks. So they're just not getting him out. And that's why I'm okay with him at the top of the order. They're hitting a little bit at the bottom of the order as well, so it's not like you're totally wasting an RBI opportunity. And he just puts so much pressure on a pitcher right out of the gate, and he's just been fantastic. We expected Cruz to be fantastic. That's something we expect to see. Gavin Dugas, after he got hurt, was not fantastic. He had a ridiculous start to the year. We're like, oh, this guy's back. The guy that hit 19 home runs and led the league in runs driven in 2 years ago. He carried them through the Eugene Regional. He's back. This is unbelievable. And then he dives in the Kentucky series and he hurts his shoulder. And he hit 3 home runs in the next 24 games. 3 home runs in 24 games after he hurts his shoulder. Now you look at Gavin Dugas. He's got a home run in 3 of the last 4 games. He's gotten a hit in 8 of the last 9 games. He's seeing the ball very, very well. And that's the stars on this team get all the credit and get all the notoriety. I was listening to the D1 Baseball podcast, and Mike Rooney continues to call LSU the most famous team in college baseball, and they are. Not just because of the brand of LSU and what they're doing with the jello shots and all that kind of stuff, but also they have Dylan Cruz, who's going to go first in the draft. That's the SEC Player of the Year. They've got Paul Skenes, who's won the Dick Hauser Trophy and throws 101 miles an hour and is the most famous pitcher in college baseball. They've got Tommy White, Tommy Tanks with the nickname and the pose. And like LSU's just got more name recognition than anybody. But the fact of the matter is that it's not the stars that make LSU as good as they are, outside of maybe Skenes, because that's just taking control of a game. It's the depth of this team. It is the Braden Jobears. It is the Gavin Dugas. It is the Hayden Travinskys. It's the Jordan Thompsons. That's what makes this team its best, is when everybody's hitting 1 through 9. And right now, you can't really point to a guy and say, man, this is a black hole in the lineup. There's like 2 spots down there where they're pretty much automatic outs. No, 1 to 9, like they can hit. Cruz had 2 hits. White had a hit. Morgan had a hit and drove 2 runs in. Dugas hit a homer. Jobert went nuts down there in the 7-hole. Jordan Thompson had a hit. Josh Pearson had a hit and scored a run. Like it's just the full package. And they saw a pretty good staff from Tennessee in that game. Andrew Lindsey's been good this year. Seth Halverson has been their best reliever for the length of the year. Sewell's had a great career there, and Burns has come on as kind of their closer. But Halverson's had a really good year. Camden Sewell, I just mentioned, is very, very good. A.J. Russell is an arm they saw 4 and out that's going to be in their weekend rotation next year for sure. It's a good Tennessee pitching staff, and LSU did plenty. They got 10 hits, scored 6 runs. They hit a couple balls out of the ballpark. You've got to feel like LSU, from an offensive standpoint, is really, really in a good spot. And it does start with Cruz, and I'd like to see Tommy White hit 1 out of the yard, but the depth is there, and I thought they did a really good job of putting runners on base and creating runs. I wish Jordan Thompson wouldn't have struck out there with second and third and 1 out, but you can't get every big hit. You've just got to make sure you create enough traffic and get enough. And against a good staff, they banged out 10 hits and scored 6 runs. So it's a good offense that's clicking at this point, and that's a comforting thing. I talk about that all the time, and it could go away. Look, Oregon State in 2017 beat the brakes off of LSU in that winner's bracket game, and then came back to play LSU 2 days later, and for 30 hours, their bats just went in the deep freeze. They couldn't hit Lang, and then Gilbert got through them. So it can go away at any point. I'm fully aware of that. But right now, you've got to feel like LSU is playing very, very well, and that's the hope. I always boil college baseball down into 2 things. It's what do you do for 56 games that puts you in position to play in the postseason? LSU certainly took care of that, and they were able to play at home. And then you just got to hope that your guys play well. And you've gotten A-plus outings from Skenes, and you've gotten an offense that has found a way somehow, some way to get it done. And in the Super, you hit 6 home runs one day, you came back and everybody in the lineup got 1 hit the next day, and that was enough to get it done. And you come back in this game against Tennessee, and really throughout the lineup, you had production from different players. So I think as far as offense goes, LSU should feel really, really good. Now you've reached the point that we all knew was coming. We all knew it was coming in a super regional. We all knew it was coming in Omaha. Every time we talked about this team, from February through May, you say, well, you're going to win behind Skenes, and then it's a matter of what's next. Who's going to step up? Is it going to be another starter? Early in the season, I'm saying Thatcher Hurd is going to be the key to this team. And he lost his spot. And then you're saying, okay, well, Ty Floyd's got to step it up. And then he has a couple really good starts. He was really good against Ole Miss. He was really good against Georgia. Is that the guy? You always knew you were going to get to this spot. And now you're here. Somebody's got to take the ball tonight and be a dude. And I don't need Skenes' performance. You don't have to strike out 13 and pitch into the ninth. You just need to get LSU off to a good start and allow these bats to go to work for you. Everybody should be comfortable and confident You've got a game in your back pocket. That goes for Wake Forest too. But now's the point that we've been talking about for 6 months. You've got to find a way to get the ball back to Skenes somehow. And that starts tonight at 6 o'clock. We'll have Charlie Hanagriff with us in an hour from right now. We'll chat all things Omaha with Hanny in an hour. Matt Trent is also up in Omaha. He's with WBRZ. He and Cobble running around, filming Jello shots, going to practices. It's quite an experience up there in Omaha when you're working it. So we're going to chat with Matt Trent coming up. Stanford has created some traffic and a run here against Chase Dolander as they've scratched one across in the bottom half of the first. Huge for the Cardinal to get out of a jam in the first inning behind Quinn Matthews, and now they've got Chase Dolander on the roast. For some reason, Chase Dolander in the first inning of games just has not been very good. He was not good in the first inning in Hattiesburg last week, and he settled in and then retired 18 of 19 and got him through 7 innings. But another first inning and some more issues would help if his defense would play a little behind him. And just see how the run scored. The catcher threw the ball into center field on a double steal, and that allowed the runner to come home and score. So Stanford leads Tennessee 1-0 in the bottom of the first inning. Tennessee trying to avoid any further damage. The winner of this game will advance to tomorrow to play the loser of LSU and Wake Forest tonight. So come back with us. We got Matt Trent coming up on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal, elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana like Corey Barr. Corey's the owner and founder of Parish Restaurant, Standard Coffee Company, and Heritage Catering in Monroe, Louisiana. That's where he was born and raised. Corey's kind of built a national brand. He was a Food Network Star Finalist in 2017. He beat Bobby Flay. Food and Wine named him People's Best New Chef in America in 2015. But with all that national acclaim, he still sticks to his roots right in Northeast Louisiana in the Monroe area. And that's what makes him a champion of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana like Corey Barr, we want to tell their story. Go to lwcc.com/champions and nominate a champion of Louisiana. Could be a nonprofit, could be a business, could be a person like Corey Barr. Corey is June's champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana Loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $25,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I drove myself to the ER, had heart surgery, and drove myself home 24 hours later, feeling fine. Starting running again after the procedure, I'm getting excited thinking about it. I had no pain, nothing. I felt great. And right then and there, I was like, oh my God, I'm back. I'm back. It's just amazing.
Ochsner Health. Long live you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking name.
It's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for a Monday edition of AFR presented by Relief Windows. We're recapping Tigers and Vols and leading you right up to LSU and Wake Forest from the College World Series. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
2-0 Stanford after an inning up there in Omaha, and that's where we're going to head. The Jim's Firearms Hotline, the whole WBRZ crew is up there. Matt Trent, part of the action, joins us now. Mr. Trent, how are you?
Oh, fantastic. You know, somewhere in middle America, haven't gotten my money back at the door. I'm trying to fit in as many lyrics to Counting Crows as I can this week.
I said this on the air last week, but after they won the Super Regional, I literally played that song the entire way to my house. I think I listened to it 4 straight times. So there you go. It's a good time to be following LSU baseball. Is this your first trip up there?
Yeah, I was talking to Cobble about it because, you know, it's an old hat for him, but I'm kind of in the same boat as LSU. You know, I'm trying to be professional, trying to do my job, but there's a little bit of starry-eyed, you know, tourist vibe with me here because I've never been to, you know, some of these great restaurants. We went and, you know, saw the old Johnny Rosenblatt little replica stadium, you know, outside of the zoo, and that was just like, you know, my Field of Dreams moment walking around, just getting, you know, crazy emotional because I've just, you know, playing college baseball and I've never gotten to experience it as a fan or a player. So this is just really a majestic couple of days for me, if I might say.
It's a great trip. There's a lot of LSU fans that have been 12 times. There's a lot of LSU fans that go for the first time every time that LSU goes, and it's always interesting to hear stories. What do you make of LSU's contingent up there?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Like literally everywhere. And you can't go anywhere. We go downtown, uptown, you know, Council Bluffs outside of Omaha. They're everywhere. And we talk to people here. I was in line at one of the merchandise tents, and this woman, you know, saw my shirt, and obviously it was like purple. So she just assumed, she's like, "Oh, you're with LSU. We've just seen so many purple," just negating the fact that TCU is here. You know, they just see purple and they automatically assume LSU. And she was like, "We just love when LSU comes up here because they bring such a good vibe." And she was like, "We've got friends that are from LSU that we always had that always come up here, whether the Tigers are in it or not." And then she goes, "I've even, you know, jumped on the bandwagon myself," and she whipped out her credit card that had a huge tiger on it. And I was like, "All right, cool. All right, let's go."
Well, it's again, it's an awesome trip, and I'll be making, if they can win a couple more games, I'll be up there for the weekend. So that's the hope. What did you make of Paul Skenes on Saturday? Pretty salty?
Yeah, I was telling someone I think Charles Schwab Field is going to have to name it Paul Skenes Mound at Charles Schwab Field because of that performance the other day. It's honestly like it's funny watching Paul Skenes pitch because, again, Dylan Cruz and Paul Skenes have just absolutely spoiled us. But watching people seeing them for the first time is really a treat because they're like, he just holds velocity so long. He throws 102 in the 8th inning. I'm like, yeah, he does because he's the best pitcher on the planet. But I really did I just love Paul's command of both sides of the plate and just the slider is next level. And then, you know, talking to Hayden Travinski after the game, he was like, the changeup was the best that we've seen it all year. You know, he could throw it at any count. He could throw it for a strike, throw it for an out pitch. And, you know, Hayden Travinski was like, that was really the difference maker for him was that changeup. And I think that's interesting because you talk to scouts and you talk to people around professional baseball. Even I've had this conversation with Big McDonald. If there is one knock to Paul Skenes, it's his ability to develop that changeup. Look, it's good, but if he wants to, you know, roll through the minors and get to the major leagues, he's going to have to make it, you know, a plus pitch And according to Travinsky, it was on that level the other night.
I'm glad you said that because I noticed he was throwing it more, and I mentioned it at the top of my show today, but I also heard on a Tennessee podcast that one of their beat writers asked Hunter Ensley, who's on the Tennessee team, obviously, what he thought of Skenes, and he said, we just didn't expect to see that many change-ups, and that made it a lot more difficult. And so that confirms it from Stravinsky. They obviously went to it a good bit more. If you had the first pick, would you take Skenes or Cruz?
You know, it's crazy because everybody asked that, and I think the interesting thing is it's all depending on the organization, you know, what they value, what they want. But really, when you draft a college player that high, really all it's about is how fast they can get to the big leagues. And I think that when you look at Dylan Cruz and Paul Skenes, there's nothing that says they're going to spend a lot of time in the minor leagues. If it were me with the Pirates, they have kind of a history of taking pitchers that are similar, you know, to Paul Skenes. I think right off the top of my head, Jamison Talion at a high school in Texas a few years ago, they kind of like did their best to fast track him. Didn't really work out great for them. But I think with Paul Skenes, he's going to be like, if you remember, I think Mike Leake out of Arizona State a couple of years ago never threw a pitch in the minor leagues. He went straight from the College World Series to the big leagues. I don't think Skenes is going to do that. I think, like we said, to develop that changeup and really get the off-speed, the secondary pitches to an elite level, they'll do it. But, like, gun to my head right now, just from an obvious standpoint, because pitchers make it to the big leagues quicker than position players, I would say Skenes. But really, you know, if you roll the dice, you can't go wrong with either one of them at number one.
Gavin Dugas has been an interesting story. He got hurt, obviously, and was banged up and not really all that productive, but he's kind of found the power stroke again the last week and a half. How big would that be for this team if he is the guy he was in February and March?
You know, I think it's interesting because I thought, in my opinion, you know, that was one of the keys to the game the other night was the bottom half of the lineup. You know, hitters 6 through 9 for LSU went 6 for 15, 4 RBIs, and 2 homers the other night. Like that, you just don't get that kind of production, especially last year with LSU, with that lineup was so top-heavy. After you got past the 5 or 6 hole, you could pretty much put it on cruise control until you flip the lineup over. But I think guys like Gavin Dugas and Jordan Thompson, obviously Braden Joe Bear, you know, if they're not going to pitch to Tommy White or Dylan Cruz, you know, they're going to have to like produce, and you produce at that high level. And that's what Kay Beloso told us, you know, after the game. He was like, this lineup is structured where you really have 2 parts. You have the upper part of the lineup, and then you have another upper part of the lineup at the bottom. So really the bottom half of the lineup for me is key if LSU wants to make a run at a national championship.
Yeah, my next question was what's the key tonight for this team? Obviously the bottom of the lineup you're talking about there. Was there something else you'll point to tonight that could tilt the scales in LSU's direction?
You know, we were just, Colin and I were just talking about that. We just don't know a whole lot about Wake Forest. Everybody wants to point out, oh, you know, the ACC is not the SEC, and so their schedule is going to be a little bit weaker, so the stats might be a little bit inflated. I really don't know. I'm kind of in a situation with LSU, like, who do you throw? Because I don't know anything outside of Rhett Lauder for the Demon Deacons. But I think, again, just with this lineup, I don't really think it matters in terms of who LSU throws, if it's Thatcher Hurd or Ty Floyd. I think both of them match up well with this lineup. I think it's a patient lineup. It's an older team in general, very similar to LSU. You kind of need that, you know, going through Omaha this time of the year. So Deacons are kind of similar to LSU in that they hit it pretty well and they pitch it pretty well. So we'll see how the 2 line up tonight.
If LSU were to lose tonight, do you think they've got enough to get through the losers bracket and get to the championship series, or do you think tonight would be the death knell?
No, I don't think. I definitely think that if they win tonight, you know, outside of Florida, I don't see anyone here that's going to provide any opposition to them to not win it. But even if they lose, yeah, I still think they've got enough. I think the bullpen has shown up over the past month, 6 weeks or so, that would give me a little bit of faith, especially if they wanted to bring guys back on short rest. They've done that a couple of times. So I think, you know, especially when you get later into this tournament, that's kind of what you need is the bullpen to really pitch at a high level. So, yeah, if they lose tonight, nothing is going to deter me from, you know, picking them continuously as the odds-on favorite. But if they definitely win tonight, I really can't see anybody else getting in the way of the championship series.
Have you had a Jell-O shot?
No comment.
Have you been to Barrett's?
Have I been to where?
Barrett's Barleycorn.
Oh no, we actually just drove by, and Cobble was again telling me, he's like the pseudo mayor, in the Chamber of Commerce of Omaha. He knows where everything is and all the good restaurants. He was like, yeah, we got to go to the LSU bar. And, you hear that, and you're like, oh, it's just like a place where LSU fans go. But no, literally, all the signage outside is in purple and gold. Like, fans are there. There's flags of LSU. I was like, oh, man, they're really going to town on this. But I think that's definitely going to be a destination for me, especially because, again, this is my first time. I want to soak in as much of Omaha as I can at this point.
First time I went to Barrett's, had a couple of cocktails, and decided to go out and play volleyball. And Cobble took my phone and videoed it and posted it on my personal Facebook account. So just be aware.
You know what's funny? What's funny is that, I was talking about when they were going to rename the mound at Charles Schwab Field, Paul Skenes Mound. I've heard rumblings from some of the Omaha natives that there are conversations about constructing a Hunt Palmer commemorative volleyball court.
I think
so. I've just, early returns say it's going to be a win-win for the city. So
look,
I don't know.
I might be up there this weekend, and we can make that happen if that's something that the Chamber of Commerce is looking into. I'm all ears. I think that's perfectly acceptable. All right, man. I appreciate your time. You'll have some fun and enjoy the baseball tonight.
No problem. Thank you, man.
He's Matt Trent from WBRZ. Sometimes people have inflated views of their team, or and may think things that aren't necessarily the case. But I think there's a lot of truth in the fact that when LSU comes to Omaha, it's just different. Look, Ole Miss and Mississippi State brought a lot of people the last couple of years. Arkansas brings a lot of people. But it's so ingrained in LSU baseball culture that you go. And you've been so many times. And so there's just a takeover, whether it's the Jello shot thing this year or it's just the atmosphere in the stands. It just is different. I want to – there are plenty of teams that travel to Omaha, and I mentioned those. Texas goes there. There are a good amount of Texas fans that show up. But it's just different when LSU goes to Omaha, and it's so cool to me that we can have that takeover effect and that we've got a bar that everybody knows that they're supposed to go to, and that there's just an understanding that, oh, yeah, that's LSU. That's just what they do. And that's really, really cool. It's kind of our thing, and I love that. And it absolutely 100% helps the program to have that sort of reputation, as you've got a coach in Jay Johnson that's so elite in the roster building portion of this thing, whether it's the high school recruiting or the transfer portal. You've got this thing to sell that nobody else really has. And I think it's so obvious when you look at this and you hear opposing beat writers talk about, well, LSU will have a massive crowd advantage, or you look on Twitter and you go, well, LSU's had more Jello shots than the entire rest of the field combined, which was nearly the case as of this morning. LSU had like 13,000 Jello shots, and the rest of the field had 15,000. So it's awesome to watch, and you love it when the team can get it done in a super, because this is what's to come, and tonight should be a lot of fun. LSU and Wake Forest, 6 o'clock tonight. If you want to listen to it, you can on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. It'll be pregame at 5:30 with Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, and Doug Thompson. Bill Franquez also chiming in on the broadcast as well. So it's going to be a big one this evening. All right, speaking of a big one, LSU got an edition of baseball in the transfer portal. Talk about that when we come back. We're going to have Charlie Hanagriff in 45 minutes at 2:30 from Omaha, Nebraska. You don't go anywhere.
This is on Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
I've been doing business with Rouge for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
For a Tuesday edition of Off the Bench, as Nick Underhill of New Orleans Football joins the show to talk Saints, and we recap LSU and Wake Forest in the College World Series. So join us 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Clean inning for Chase Dolander in the Stanford second. So after 2 innings, it is Stanford 2, Tennessee nothing in an elimination game up there in Omaha. Tigers are trying to take care of some business on the baseball field this week, but there's business to be done in the transfer portal as well. Jay Johnson's still very much active in that pursuit, and they got an addition over the weekend. Justin Lohr, left-handed pitcher from Xavier, has committed to LSU. He's 6'5", 200 pounds, played his high school ball in Lakeville, Minnesota, but has been a left-handed, mainly reliever for Xavier the last couple of years. He's been a guy that they've used for 2-3 innings at a time from the left side. I saw this addition, and a lot of people that had seen Lohr pitch were pretty excited about it, so I went and looked at some video. and looked obviously at the statistics. And this past year, he threw 57 innings. His ERA was very, very strong at 1.89, and he was a left-handed reliever for Stanford. He was excellent against Vanderbilt. He closed out an elimination game in the Nashville Regional. He threw 2 shutout innings in that game and struck out 3. He was also very good in the regional opener against UConn in 3 1/3 innings, only allowed a run on 2 hits, struck out 3 in that one as well. This is an interesting ad for LSU as Jay Johnson continues to look for left-handed pitching on his staff. This guy, like I said, was 6'5". He comes from a kind of a weird 3/4 arm slot. He's got a lot of elbows and kneecaps moving everywhere. He throws 91, 92, 93 miles an hour, and the breaking ball is very good. It's a sharp slider that he throws from that 3/4 arm slot. This is a guy who I think could contend as a starting pitcher in the SEC. I think he's got that kind of potential. I saw an interview that was done with Lohr after he committed to LSU, and the question was posed, hey, did you see the jump that Paul Skenes made going from a mid-major program to the top of the food chain at LSU, and do you feel like you could be kind of in that mold? And he said, yeah, I definitely think that there's something to that. So this is a guy that I think has been a tough left-handed reliever in his time at Xavier, and a really good when he was a first-team all-conference player. This is a guy who potentially could be a starter. Now, if he's not and he turns into a bullpen arm, that's fine as well. But LSU's got to continue to go to the portal and get elite-level arms because they are losing a ton off of this team. You're not going to have Paul Skenes. You're not going to have Ty Floyd. And you've had the injuries to Shores and Taylor, who are iffy to come back for next year. And that's kind of the top of your staff. You start to look at some other guys. Christian Little's gonna move on. Riley Cooper, I would imagine, would come back, but I don't know the answer to that if he is or not. You feel like you've got something with Griffin Herring, and Nate Ackenhausen probably returns, but Ackenhausen being a bullpen guy, you've got to go get arms because you're going to lose the top end of this staff, and you've got some injuries that I don't think you can count on for next year. So Lohr certainly fits the bill there. I think he's got a chance to be a really good SEC pitcher and a guy that could have his role changed. I think they'll certainly, in the fall when things ramp up, they'll look at him and see if they can extend him a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's a guy who was a starting pitcher for you because he's got really good stuff and I think is looking for some spot where he can expand his role and maybe make himself a little bit more draftable. He's played 2 college seasons, so he'll have 2 more to play. Obviously, you would like to come in, play 1, and move on, get the paycheck. But this is a really good ad for LSU from the transfer portal, and I think they're going to go in for a few more. That's just going to be the nature of this. And I've talked about this a lot since really last summer, that this is now what college baseball is, and LSU is going to benefit from it greatly. I mean, sure, Xavier found this guy and recruited him out of the upper Midwest and brought him over, and he's developed into a really good pitcher for their program. But at that level, if you get a guy that develops and becomes really good, he's going to get swallowed up by one of the top programs, and LSU's right there. So this one's not going to grab the headlines like Tommy White did, National Freshman of the Year, like Jacob Berry did, National Freshman of the Year, like Skenes, a Team USA player. But it's still a really, really nice ad, and just shows more about the nature of college baseball today, that you get a guy that develops into a really good player, he's going to take a step up to one of the elite level programs. We had Will Davis on, who's the head coach over at Lamar before LSU played Lamar earlier this year, and I asked him, like, what's it like? And he's like, well, my Friday night starter has been snatched up the last 3 years, twice by Oklahoma and once by, I think he said Baylor or Texas Tech. So it's just, I don't know if it's the greatest thing in the world for the sport, but it certainly is a really, really good thing for LSU. So you'll take it, and LSU will take Justin Lohr. He's got 2 more years to play, and I think a really, really nice left-handed ad as Jay continues to want to stock those shelves with lefties, and this is a very, very good thing. Looking up there in Omaha, as I mentioned, it is 2-0 Stanford. Chase Dolander back out to work in the 3rd inning, has hit the leadoff man, so Stanford with the runner aboard. And look, Quinn Matthews at this point does not look like a guy who's totally out of gas. Obviously, he was, in my opinion, overused last week by the Stanford staff, but he's gotten 2 extra days, did not start the opener for him, and he looks pretty sharp early on. We'll see if it's an issue that he maybe runs out of gas a little bit more quickly, or maybe he's just one of those guys who's got the rubber arm and he can take the ball and go. And if that's the case, that's a good spot for Stanford to be in because he's very, very, very good. Now, Stanford's staff past Quinn Matthews is not great. So my opinion, someone who's trying to win a national championship here, I'm pulling for Stanford to win this game. Because if Tennessee wins it, you're going to see Drew Beam tomorrow. The loser of LSU and Wake will see Drew Beam tomorrow with your season on the line, and that's not a real comfortable spot. Stanford would be a little bit further down the pecking order in terms of arms. So I'm certainly confident in LSU tonight, but the loser is going to play the winner of this game tomorrow, and I would, if LSU were in that game, I'd much rather see Stanford win basically a bullpen game as opposed to Drew Beam, who was just fantastic in Hattiesburg last weekend, had the breaking ball just really going. He's up to 97 with the fastball. So Tennessee's got some arms, and they are capable of coming out of this thing from a loser's bracket perspective. Stanford in more of LSU's ilk. Just not a team that's built to win a bunch of games in a row because the pitching staff gets a little thin towards the bottom. So LSU's in a great pitching spot right now. You got to play 4 games in 4 days. That situation changes just a little bit. All right, that'll do it for hour number 1 here on this Monday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. If you missed it, talked a ton of baseball. Went over LSU and Tennessee. Talked to Paul Skenes, talked to the offense, and then we had Matt Trent from WBRZ jump in from Omaha. So if you want to catch some of that, you can on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab. You can also get it on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, on Google, or on YouTube, wherever you may find your audio. We certainly appreciate you finding that. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. In the second hour, we're talking a ton of LSU and Wake. Charles Hanagriff is going to join us from Omaha, Nebraska, coming up at 2:30. Come back with us after Sports Center. We'll start previewing Tigers and Deeks. You're listening to the Capital City's leader in sports talk. It is 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $25,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Bayou Ford has up to $7,000 off MSRP plus 0% financing on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. It's on to the first big order of business this NBA offseason for new Warriors GM Mike Dunleavy Jr. The agent for forward Draymond Green told ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski Green's declining his $27.6 million player option and will enter unrestricted free agency. The move was expected. ESPN NBA front office insider Bobby Marks.
I always say this, whenever a player declines an option that's $27, $28 million, you have something in your back pocket. You're never going to leave $28 million on the table to go out searching for a deal and be stranded at the altar here. So I would say worst case scenario, and if he wants to go shop it, that he comes back on a 1-year, $28 million deal in Golden State.
Bobby Marks on Fitz and Harry. Dunleavy told reporters today the Warriors want Draymond back and need him if they're going to compete at the highest level. 8-time golf major champion Tom Watson sent a letter to PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan looking for answers on the tour's new partnership with Saudi backers of Live Golf, said the questions were compounded in the hypocrisy of the disregard of the moral issue.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. They're close, convenient, and have the parts you need fast, along with excellent customer service from professional parts people you can trust. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2 on this Monday, Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We got one more hour to go here. Charles Hanagriff at the bottom of this hour at 2:30. He'll check in from Omaha. Appreciate Rev for making that possible all week long. Charlie and Jimmy are going to be up there as long as the Tigers are, which hopefully is through the weekend. Right now, 2-0 Stanford as the Cardinals are threatening in the bottom half of the third inning. They got a couple of men on against Chase Dollander, and the Tennessee bullpen is active. So there's a single up the middle. Stanford's going to add to that lead. It is now 3-0 Cardinal, and we'll see how long Tony Vitello goes with his ace, Chase Dollander, how long until he goes to the pen. And you would have to think that Chase Burns would be an option here. That's the best stuff on this Tennessee bullpen. So we'll see what the situation is. But Stanford, an early lead, and Quinn Matthews off to a great start. The southpaw for Stanford doing a pretty good job against this Tennessee lineup. So Ball's trying to avoid falling to 0-4 in Omaha in the Vitello era, which I know makes all of you very, very disappointed. I know how much you cheer for Tony and want his teams to do well, but I'm just delivering you the news as I have it. Let's talk about Wake Forest here. The Deacs have just been phenomenal all season long. They are 53-10 on the year. They went 22-7 to win the ACC. They absolutely blasted through their regional, played Bama in the Super, won a nail-biter in Game 1, and just went nuts and hit 9 home runs in Game number 2. And the pitcher in that game was Josh Hartle, and that's who we all believe we will see tonight. And I've been asked a couple times, well, what's Wake Forest number 2 guy look like? And I'll tell you what he looks like. He's good. He is 6'5". He is left-handed, and his numbers are sparkling. He is 11-2 on the year with a 2.80 ERA. I want to stress how impressive that is in that ballpark. If you watch the highlights of their Super against Bama, it's like a launching. It looks like a T-ball field. Their park is a joke, quite honestly. And it does inflate their offensive numbers, but it makes their pitching numbers look so much more impressive when you consider how small and offensive that ballpark is. This year, Hartle has thrown 96 innings he has 131 strikeouts in 96 innings. To put that into some perspective, because it's not on the Skenes level, which is a joke, but 131 strikeouts, incidentally, is exactly the amount of strikeouts that Alex Lang had as a freshman. Remember, Lang was undefeated as a freshman. I think he was 13-0. And he did win a start in Omaha. They beat Fullerton. It's the year that they put Poche out there in game 1 against TCU, and he misfired to first base a couple times. LSU lost the game. They came back and played Fullerton, and Lang won that game. But he was undefeated that year as a freshman. He struck out 131. That's how many Josh Hartle has this year. He's only walked 20, and he has given up 36 runs, 30 of them earned in those 96 innings of work. The fastball is not super explosive. It's 90 to 92. But he's got a very good changeup and 2 breaking balls that he'll throw. He's got kind of a sweeping slider and then more of a tight, short breaking ball that he'll throw as well. He's struck out 8 or more 11 times in his 17 starts this year. And he throws a lot of strikes. That's something I noticed when I was watching highlights of 2 of his starts. He's in the strike zone a lot, and the stats bear that out as well. So, he's been hit a little bit of late. In 3 of his last 4 starts, Josh Hartle has allowed 4 earned runs exactly. Alabama got him for 4 home runs. They hit 2 balls out of the yard on him, and he's given up 4 earned in 3 of the last 4 starts. I know that there is a faction of you that really believe that LSU struggles with left-handers, and I'm not here to tell you that they're elite against left-handed hitting or that they didn't get tied in knots by a couple left-handers this year. They absolutely did. Hunter Holland did it, and Hagen Smith did it as well, and those guys are really, really good, and so is Hartle. So I understand where some of that comes from. I will tell you that LSU is also 17-5 against left-handed starters. So they have hit lefties this year. There have been times where lefties have carved them up, and Hartle is going to be a guy that's going to be difficult to deal with. He is, but LSU can do it. If you don't trust this offense, you're gonna have a hard time trusting any LSU offense. I think it's how I feel a little bit about the 2019 football team going into the Clemson game. I'm sitting there, I'm going, if you don't trust this team to go out there and do this against Clemson, then at what point will you trust a team? And I'm not trying to put this baseball team right up there with the 2019 football team that had a perfect season and won a national championship. I'm just saying LSU's got a really good offense. They've been swinging the bat really well the last few weeks, and if you don't trust them to go out there and hit, then I don't know that you ever really will feel very comfortable with an LSU team in Omaha. But Hartle is good, and LSU will see him tonight. And then if you look towards the Wake Forest bullpen, they've also got some guys that can give you some problems. Michael Massey has been really, really good for them this year. He's a right-hander who has 71 strikeouts in 38 innings of work. That's just preposterous. Camden Manasseh has been their closer this year. He has an ERA of 2.64. He's got 13 saves, so I think you'll probably see him. And then Sean Sullivan has been a guy that they've gone to out of the bullpen a lot. These guys pitched back on Saturday, but they should be available after an off day to go. And Sullivan's got 108 strikeouts this year in 66 innings. So, look, this is a team that's very, very good on the mound, and I still think LSU should be able to take good at-bats, drive pitch counts up, and do some damage. They've really done that all year against some of the best pitchers that they faced. If you wanted to give a comp for Hartle, it does look a little bit like Hunter Holland. He throws a little bit harder than Holland. He doesn't throw as hard as Hagen Smith. Hagen Smith throws 97. What you're going to see from Hartle tonight is closer to 91. But it does look some like Hunter Holland, and that has given LSU some trouble. I think the key for LSU is to get into some fastball counts, and when he does leave some balls up, you got to hammer him. And I think LSU can do that, but it's a good Wake Forest starter, and they're not going to send him out there and just let him flap in the breeze if it's not working. They've got too many bullpen arms to let that happen. If LSU's able to scratch 2, 3, 4 runs in the first couple of innings and create some traffic, they'll go ahead and make a change because they've got plenty of guys down there that have ridiculous numbers, even in that small ballpark. So that's kind of the task that LSU is up against from an offensive perspective. I think that you're just going to roll with the same lineup, even though you're facing a lefty. I don't think you take Joe Bear out, obviously, after a monster game. I don't think you take Beloso out. I don't know that you take Pearson out. I think Jay Johnson has kind of settled on the guys that he wants to go with. and that's who he's going to go to. I just don't know that Paxton Kling is going to jump in there. I don't think he'll go to Jarrett Jones all of a sudden after 3 weeks basically off. He's kind of picked his lineup, and even though you're facing a tough left-hander, you're gonna go with your guys. So I don't expect to see any significant lineup changes. Let's do this. Let's take a timeout. We're a little bit early for that. We'll take a timeout. I want to talk a little about LSU's pitching and how it's not quite as cut and dried as you may think it is. Talk about that after this break and maybe a little bit on the rest of the bracket as a whole before we get to Charlie coming up at 2:30. So let's take a timeout. We'll come back with some more. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Charles
Charles Hanagriff. Our Omaha home for the College World Series is the Ameristar Casino and Hotel in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just minutes away from downtown Omaha. Enjoy the only casino buffet in the area and a full sports book. Eat, watch, and bet at the Ameristar Casino and Hotel.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Talking to Charles Hanagriff in 15 minutes from Omaha, Nebraska. Quinn Matthews on cruise control right now for Stanford. He has set down 8 in a row. 4-0 Stanford as they play on into the bottom of the 4th inning. It's still time for the Vols, but it's the danger zone. They are in the danger zone for sure. You've got an ace locked in right now for Stanford and a 4-run deficit that you're staring at. So Tennessee's going to have to get it moving in a hurry. Talked about Wake's pitching there. I want to flip and now talk about LSU's pitching. It would not shock me tonight if you see Thatcher Hurd. Wouldn't shock me if you saw him to start the game. It would not shock me if you saw him in relief. I think in everybody's brains, we're kind of conditioned to go, well, Floyd will pitch tonight, and then if they've got to play tomorrow, it would be Hurd, and then if you've got it down the line, maybe Javen Coleman or maybe Riley Cooper gets a spot. And I don't know anything. I think y'all are pretty aware that the starting pitcher and keeping that secret is pretty important to the LSU coaching staff. So they're not telling the radio guy who's starting today. But it would not shock me to see Thatcher Hurd. I think, and I'm just spitballing here, if you were to see Thatcher Hurd maybe in a starting role tonight, there might be something to the fact that Wake sees fastballs really well. They're good on spin rate, and they launch the ball. I mean, it feels like the ballpark would be a good fit for Ty Floyd if you feel like you can keep him in it, because he does give up some home runs because he gives up a lot of fly balls, and this is not a very home run hitter friendly ballpark. But maybe this team just sees fastballs really well, and you're looking for somebody that can spin it against Wake. And if you're looking for spin, you look at what Thatcher Hurd gave you in the regional, and Ty Floyd doesn't really give you that with the breaking ball. He has a decent breaking ball when he throws it, but at times he doesn't have a really good feel for it. So I'm not 100% certain what they're going to do, but there's potentially a possibility for Thatcher Hurd to get the baseball at some point tonight. And if whoever does for LSU, which they have the entire staff at their disposal, they've got everybody ready to roll. Outside of Paul Skenes, everybody can pitch. You're facing a Wake team that has got some dudes. Brock Wilken has 31 home runs this year. 31 homers for Brock Wilken. He hit 3 in a game against Bama back in the Super Regional. He's also hitting .358, so he's pretty good. Brock Wilken is going to be a high pick in this coming draft. Nick Kurtz is going to be a really high pick in next year's draft. He's hitting .364 on the year. He's got 24 home runs. Now, these stats are a little bit inflated because the ballpark is pathetic, but they're good, and make no mistakes about it. So LSU can piece this thing together any which way, and I think if you're Jay Johnson tonight, you really don't even pay a bit of mind to a potential game tomorrow. You don't pay attention to the losers bracket. Now, if you get down 11-1 at some point, then you have to start thinking about that. But in terms of how you're trying to set up the game, there is nothing off limits. I wouldn't be the least bit concerned if LSU came out there and started Ty Floyd and then went to Thatcher Hurd in a tight game, because you've got to try to win this game. There is no, well, we need to make sure that we've got enough arms for tomorrow. Forget that. That's out. We're using whoever we think is the best matchup for the next hitter. If we've got to throw Floyd and Hurd and Javen Coleman and Ackenhausen and Cooper tonight, well, then that's what you got to do to try to win the game. You cannot save guys because you think you may have to come through the losers bracket. LSU's best chance to win the College World Series is to start this thing 3-0 and get Skenes to Saturday. And you've got to win this game. Now, again, if the lead gets too big and you don't have the lead, then you've got to make some decisions about that at that point. But if LSU's winning or it's tight, you deploy everybody. All hands on deck. So we'll see what Jay decides to do. We'll find that out, I guess, 90 minutes before first pitch. But it's a Wake lineup that's got some significant thump. Justin Johnson's got 16 homers. Danny Corona's got 13 homers. Mentioned Wilkin with the 31 and Kurtz with the 24. And a guy that you've got to worry about in terms of his speed and athleticism is Tommy Hawk, who is really fast and kind of starts fires for this Wake Forest team. But LSU's got to use everybody, and they're in as good a position as you can possibly be. And this is what I talked about back at the top of the show. This is the spot that we have talked about for months. Well, you get into a regional, and you're going to be the better team. Your offense should be able to overpower a 4 seed, and Skenes will win you a game, and you're probably in good shape. And then in a super, Skenes will go out there, and he'll win game 1, and then you just got to win another one, and they did. And then you get to Omaha, and Skenes probably wins that first one, and then you get to, and now we're here. This is it. This is the spot we've been talking about for 6 months. And it might be Ty Floyd. It might be Thatcher Hurd. But in my opinion, all LSU is asking of their starting pitcher tonight is, hey, I need you to get me through 5 innings and allow 2 runs. I don't need 7 shutout. I'll take it if you got it. But 5 innings, 2 runs, maybe 3. And LSU's offense is going to have to find a way to get to 6, 7, 8 runs. And far more often than not, this team has done that. And I do think that this team can hit the ball out of this ballpark. We saw that. So that's the goal of whoever the starter is. You're very likely not going to go out there and mow down Wake Forest. They're really good. They hit 1 through 9. But whoever they tab as the starting pitcher in the game just needs to get them off to a good start. And then you've got every arm that you want at your disposal. Sans scheme. I want to talk briefly about kind of the rest of the bracket before we get to Charlie here in about 10 minutes. Tennessee has gone to the bullpen. Chase Dolander has been lifted from the game. He went 3 1/3 in this game, has allowed 4 runs. He's responsible for the runner on first base, and Tennessee has gone to their guy, Chase Burns. He's been their best bullpen guy since making that move back to the pen. He was phenomenal in Hattiesburg last year, and they're going to ask him to right this ship and try to keep Tennessee in it. But it is 4-0 Stanford in the bottom of the 4th inning. How about last night with Kevin O'Sullivan? What a colossal mistake he made. Now, I've said all the time that I think that baseball managers, college head baseball coaches have little impact on the actual game. They build the rosters, they hire the staff, and they're in the big picture, the results matter. But over the course of 2.5, 3 hours, like, the players have got to go do it. Well, it's tough for the players to go do it if you lose track of the rules and make too many mound visits, and you have to bring your all-conference closer out of the game when you didn't intend to. And you had to put a pitcher in last night who didn't get to warm up. If you miss this, you can only have 7 mound visits. If you take an 8th between the catcher and the pitcher, you have to take the pitcher out. And the Florida bench lost track of mound visits, and O'Sullivan went out there to talk to Neely, and the umpire said, all right, make a change. He's like, what? Well, you got to make a change. You have too many mound visits. So he's got to go to the freshman who's not allowed to warm up in the bullpen. He's got to go straight to the mound. He comes from the dugout to the mound, and he's got to go in there in a tight game and get outs. And guess what? Oral Roberts made it uncomfortable. Yeah, managers don't have a huge impact in that 2.5 hours unless you lose track of the rules. And you end up with a guy you didn't need to be in the game. And he got it figured out. But that was something else last night. I'll be honest. I'm sitting there last night. I'm on the couch. And I'm thinking about, okay, we're playing Wake Forest tomorrow. It's a really tough draw. They've played better than anybody in the country all year. Hadn't lost a weekend. And I'm sitting here watching a team I despise in Florida play Oral Roberts in the same game. And I know that Oral Roberts was misseeded as a 4 seed, and they've got some good players, got an All-American, got a great closer. Like, I'm not trying to say that Oral Roberts is the same as LSU's Tuesday games in March. But it's a pretty good draw for Florida. Is that fair to say? Florida catches a pretty good break there with Oral Roberts instead of Wake Forest, instead of Vanderbilt, who could have been in that spot. I was a little cranky about it. I actually typed out a couple of tweets and deleted them. Didn't end up sending them. But I was correct, because LSU's playing the most consistent team in the country, and Florida was playing Oral Roberts. Although I could have said the same thing about Stony Brook or Coastal Carolina once upon a time when they came to the box, and that didn't work out so well. But that, I thought, was a fascinating storyline. Also on that side, Virginia goes home. I mean, they were right there against Florida in the opener. They've got it on their racket. They've got a 2-run lead going to the ninth, and then boom, boom, the 2 homers from Florida. They walk it off with a sac fly. Virginia doesn't get off the mat, and they lose. They are eliminated by TCU. So Brian O'Connor's team headed home, and no stories about how Brian O'Connor is the guy in the statue of the College World Series and grew up in Council Bluffs and all that. Virginia goes back home, and TCU lives to fight against Oral Roberts tomorrow. Great news for the Hunt Palmer show. LSU can't play at 2 o'clock the rest of the way. So that is super awesome. They could, I guess, theoretically on Friday, I guess it's possible, but you have to get to Thursday, you have to get to an if necessary game, and the other bracket would have to play. So there's a lot of things that would have to happen, but basically LSU has avoided the 1 o'clock window, which is super great for us because we wouldn't have to sit here and talk on the radio while LSU's playing in a College World Series game. They'll be the night game, so that's great for those of us that are working as well, that can get home and watch baseball, and certainly that'll be the case tonight as LSU plays Wake Forest at 6 o'clock. If you want to listen to the game, you can certainly do so on our sister station, Eagle 98.1 at 5:30. They will crank things up with a pregame show. The voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair, is up there, as is Doug Thompson, as is Bill Franquez. So got a 3-man booth working up there, and they're doing a great job calling the action. So you can listen there on Eagle or check it out on ESPN this evening. It's LSU and Wake Forest. I mentioned 4-0 Stanford as they play on in Omaha, Nebraska. Tennessee has gone to the bullpen. Chase Dolander has gone down. They are going with Chase Burns at this point in the game. So Tennessee trying to avoid going 2-Q for the second time in the Tony Vitello era. I don't think Tennessee's won a game in Omaha since 2005. So it has been a minute for the Vols. And Quinn Matthews looks quite settled in at the moment up there at Charles Schwab Field. Speaking of settled in, we know that Charlie can settle in Omaha with the best of them. He and Jimmy are up there. 104.5 ESPN and Rev Business are bringing you coverage from Omaha all week long. Live at lunch will be from Omaha. Jimmy and Charlie there at 11 a.m. every single day. Our coverage of LSU Fighting Tiger baseball in the 2023 Men's College World Series, powered by Rev Business. So let's go up to Omaha after this timeout, and we'll chat with Charlie next.
This is On Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come home, live Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Charles Hanagriff, our Omaha home for the College World Series is the Ameristar Casino and Hotel in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just minutes away from downtown Omaha. Enjoy the only casino buffet in the area and a full sports book. Eat, watch, and bet at the Ameristar Casino and Hotel.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
In hour number one, we took to the Jim's Firearms Hotline to chat with Matt Trent, who has made his first trip ever to Omaha, and it's like a kid in a candy store enjoying everything for the first time. Now we'll talk to a guy who's not made his first trip to Omaha this year. It's Charles Hanagriff up there in Omaha. Our coverage all week long brought to you by Rev. Charlie, how are you, sir?
Doing great, Hunt. How are you?
I'm good. Tell me about the LSU turnout this weekend up in Omaha. I know it's been a minute for us since we've been up there. Is it a sea of purple and gold?
It's as strong of an opening weekend attendance for LSU that I've seen in my trips up here. And I think that the 6-year drought has got a lot to do with it. And of course, this team's got a chance to win the whole thing. So yeah, in the stadium, I would say it was 6-8-1 LSU to Tennessee. I was surprised that Tennessee has not brought as many people as I thought that they might.
Yeah, that's because that's a fan base that travels for sports. They travel for basketball. They certainly travel for football. I always imagine that they'd bring a pretty sizable contingent up there, but evidently not. So we'll take it. Your biggest takeaway from LSU's win on Saturday outside of Skenes?
That they got, real production from the bottom of the order. That, Jobert gets 3 hits, drives in a couple. Dugas, homers. Thompson had a key RBI late in the game that gave him a little bit more breathing room. If the bottom of this lineup's going to hit, then they're going to be a really hard out. So I would say those 3 things. And, that Jay Johnson was very decisive. I thought the move to go to Gavin Guidry was the right one. And I thought the move to go get him out was the right one. So he'll be better the next time he goes out there. He's a competitor. Went out there, and as it happens to a lot of players here, the moment is pretty big. And, he hung a slider, and kid hit it out, and Johnson went and got the veteran.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Guidry's had so much swagger and that intensity and that confidence bordering on cockiness over the last couple of weeks, and he's pitched the ball really, really well to show for it. And then obviously that's kind of shell-shocking to get out there and the first guy you see hits it over the wall. Do you think that issue with his confidence moving forward?
I don't, because he doesn't think that anybody can get a hit off of him. I compare his attitude, his swagger, like kind of like Blair Barbier. You're going to have to rip my heart out to beat me. Now, that doesn't mean that he's invincible, but he thinks he is, and that's good a lot of times. So, like I said, I expect him to be back.
We'll see. They got basically everybody ready to roll in the game tonight. We assume that Wake Forest is going to throw Josh Hartle in this game, big 6'4" left-hander. Do you think Jay still rolls with the guys, with Pearson and Jobert and Beloso and those left-handed bats, or do you think he tries to sneak a right-hander in there?
Well, we were talking about that at lunch today. Jobert's going to play. What he might do, I can't see inserting Jared Jones in right now. Because he's had, I think, one at bat in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks, something like that. But what he could do, and I'm not necessarily saying he should, but he has the option to put Milazzo behind the plate tonight and to DH Travinsky. That would get another right-handed bat in there, and it would take Beloso out of the lineup. I don't think he will, but if he does make a move to a right-handed bat, I think that might be the one you look at.
Do you think we're going to see Thatcher Hurd tonight in any capacity?
I don't think they want to, but I think they would if they had to. The scenario where I see Hurd coming in the game is if they get into, say, the 5th or 6th inning of a tie ball game or maybe a one-run ball game, and they go to him to get them home. But Wake Forest has got 4 lefty bats in their projected starting lineup, so I expect the first guy out of the pen today to be Ackenhausen. And I wouldn't be surprised if Cooper came in right behind him. So the scenario I can see is Ty Floyd, can he get you 4 innings? If he can get you 4 innings, get you twice through the lineup. If you sign me up for 4 innings of 2-run baseball with Ty Floyd right now, and then I'll take the 2 big lefties to try to get me close to the end.
Do you buy that this ballpark's a good fit for Ty Floyd and that heavy, high fastball load?
Well, watching this early game, the wind's blowing in.
Yeah.
So yeah, but he's got to keep his command. The moment's going to be pretty big for him, and we've seen that eat some pitchers up before. So I'm a touch nervous about that. But today of all days, of the first 4 days of the College World Series, for him to pitch in a game, I'd pick today. As long as the wind is still, blowing out a few hours from now when they start. Blowing in, a few hours when they start.
Got a rooting interest in the game that's going on right now. Tennessee just pushed their first run across. It's 4-1, and the Vols have a couple on and 2 out here in the 5th.
Yeah, I prefer Tennessee to go home.
Yeah.
They've got enough. And it's not for the reason that you might think. Nobody much likes Tony Vitello in Baton Rouge, and they play with an edge and all that, but that's not really why. They've got enough pitching depth to make them a real problem. Like if LSU loses tonight, I don't really want to see Drew Beam tomorrow. Nope. I'll take my chances with whoever Stanford throws. And then, of course, if, LSU wins, then, all the better. But Tennessee with Beam in the next game, and then they've got enough arms to really make it tough on you. The Stanford bullpen is not overly impressive. If they ever get Matthews out of the game, and I know he can throw 250 pitches, but, once he's done, I think they're very hittable.
Yeah, I would totally agree with all of that. And Matthews still rolling. Doesn't look like he's had too many ill effects from a heavy workload last week. All right, Charlie, thanks so much for checking in. We'll hear from you live at lunch tomorrow.
All right, guys, thanks. Charlie
Hanagriff, our coverage from up there in Omaha. Brought to you all week by Rev Business. Charlie and Jimmy will be at Barrett's Barleycorn tomorrow. That'll be 11-1, leading right into us. So appreciate Rev for making all that possible. Appreciate Charlie for checking in. I'm with him there. I talked about it in the first hour. I think if you're an LSU fan, you're pulling for Stanford in this ball game. I mean, you look at the way the pitching can shake out. If you just want to play hypotheticals and say that LSU were to lose tonight, you would see Drew Beam in the game tomorrow, and then you would turn around, come back, and have to face Wake twice. And Louder would be ready to go in the second of those games. So you're talking about having to win games pitched by Drew Beam and Rhett Louder to get to the championship series. Say that Stanford wins this game, you would be facing someone down the line on that staff, and Quinn Matthews is unavailable, period. So that's good. And then say, if you're to win the game and you move into the championship round of your bracket and you send Wake Forest down there, well, maybe Stanford can get through Wake Forest, and then you face a team that still doesn't have Quinn Matthews because you may see him on a Thursday on 3 days rest. I'm sure Stanford would do that, showing what they've done the last couple of weeks, but it just makes things a lot easier from a starting pitching opponent perspective if you send Tennessee packing, you keep Stanford around, and that's the staff that's compromised. So that's where I am. If you're not following along and you're just relying on us for some updates, Vols had the bases loaded and 1 out on Quinn Matthews in the 5th, hit a fly ball to left field. The left fielder, who's got a hose of an arm, threw out a guy in the first inning, threw a laser beam to home plate, and it was real close. And they went to review it, and Tennessee was safe. So Tennessee gets its first run, and there's a 2-out RBI single by the Vols up the middle off of Quinn Matthews. It is now 4-2 Stanford, as they have cut that lead in half here in the top of the 5th inning. Stanford is the home team. All right, we'll take one more time out. We will come back and preview LSU and Wake one more time. We'll play some Take It or Leave It, and we'll hand the keys to Matt and Moscona. Come back with us on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Turn my music high, 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 high. Yeah. You don't know what you're doing. Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you can run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clash and chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like it's Wall Street.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Rouge for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
All right, let's say ah.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for a Monday edition of AFR presented by Relief Windows. We're recapping Tigers and Vols and leading you right up to LSU and Wake Forest from the College World Series. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Say what you will about the Vols, but they're pretty tough. They were up against some pretty tough spots in Clemson in that game. They hit a 2-out, 3-run homer to take the lead. Then they sitting there with the bases loaded, can't score. And they lose game 1 of a super. You got to face an ace, win 2 games there, dealing with rain delays on the road. And they get Paul Skenes on Saturday, and they fall behind 4-0 against Quinn Matthews and Stanford today. And they have tied the score here with 4 runs in the top of the 5th inning, and they are still hitting with the bases loaded. Stanford is continuing to stick with Quinn Matthews here, who has run into a tough spot. But I don't think David Esker is really comfortable going to anybody else at this point. So we'll see. They're going to go out, have a mound visit, and that we'll see if that's it for Quinn Matthews or if they're going to stick with him. But the Vols have tied the score. Of course, the winner of this Stanford and Tennessee game will see the loser of LSU and Wake Forest tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. LSU and Wake tonight. Look, this is a matchup that on paper probably favors Wake Forest. I think they're going to have a more proven starting pitcher on the mound in likely Josh Hartle than whoever it is that LSU may tab as their starter, whether it's Floyd or Hurd or whoever it may be. And the lineups are kind of a wash. I mean, Wake Forest has got an elite lineup. LSU's got an elite lineup. And so it's just a matter of going out there and winning a baseball game. I expect that both teams will feel pretty loose tonight after being out on the field on Saturday. Wake got off to a pretty poor start on Saturday. LSU, of course, had Skenes out there, which helps calm anybody's nerves. But I expect to see a really competitive game tonight. Now, keep in mind, LSU got waxed in this game in 2017. Went out there with Eric Walker against Oregon State, and that's the game he got hurt, and it got out of hand in a hurry. LSU lost that game, and then they came back and figured it out. They beat Florida State, they beat Oregon State twice, and they got into the championship series. Now, they had some help from Alex Lang at that point, and I think LSU could get some help from Paul Skenes on Thursday if necessary. But if you lose this game, it's going to be difficult to get Paul Skenes a start in the championship series. That's kind of what's at stake here. You need to go 3-0 to get Skenes a start in the championship series. Now, theoretically, if you were to lose it and Skenes were to come back on Thursday and pitch, he might be able to help you in some capacity in a Monday game 3 of a championship series. But the next 3 days, you're basically playing for a chance to get Paul Skenes a start in the championship series where you become a prohibitive favorite against anybody at that point. So it's a massive one. It's not the end of the road, and LSU can recover if they don't win it. But you really need to go out there and get this one. So like I said earlier, all hands on deck for this one. Anybody you need to use to win this game, you got to get it done. And hopefully you see Tommy White or Dylan Cruz pop one out of the yard for a big 3-run jack, and LSU takes control of the ball game. We shall see, but it'll crank up at 6 o'clock. All right, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
All right, first one here. Video an entire concert on your cell phone. Take it.
Videoed the entire concert. Every song was a new video, and she sat there and recorded it the entire time. That seems like an odd thing for me. I'm going to leave it. It seems like an odd thing to, not like one song, your favorite song. every single song was being videoed and recorded. You're just going to go back and watch those on your phone? I don't get it. That's just not the way that I'm going to do a sporting event. That's not the way I'm going to do. I mean, I videoed Dylan Cruz's last at bat in the box. I did do that a couple weeks ago, and it ended up being a really cool video because he hit that double, and it was cool to see. But like every song, that's like, it was 2 artists. It was like, that's probably 25 songs. That seems a little much.
Yeah, I've seen people, that do that. They'll post the whole video online or something on YouTube maybe, but
absolutely.
Still, that's kind of crazy.
Absolutely.
The Cardinals invited former World Series MVP David Freese into the team's Hall of Fame. He declined.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it. I mean, I get it. David Freese is from St. Louis, and he was massive in being the World Series MVP. Dramatic late game home runs. I mean, he had just a run for the ages for that week, but he declined it, saying he just doesn't feel like he should be in the same company as Bob Gibson and Stan Musial and Albert Pujols and Mark McGwire and those kind of, like, he just doesn't see himself in that light with Yachty and Waino and all those guys. And like, but you won the World Series MVP. You delivered some of the greatest moments in the history of the franchise. Like, I just don't think it's the right thing to do to just tell him, I don't think so. Like, you did it. Like, Warren Morris is not the greatest player in the history of LSU baseball, but like, he's remembered incredibly fondly because he produced the moment. David Freese produced the moments. And so I just don't know why you would tell him no. I mean, it was voted on, they named it, announced it, the whole thing, and he's like, no, I don't think I belong in that conversation. Well, I think that's a little ridiculous. Yeah, you do. You did it. So I think it's odd.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. Paul Maneri reportedly interviewed for the job at Miami last week. Paul and Coral Gables, take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. I know Paul a little bit. We're certainly on a first-name basis. He's come on the show a few times and always appreciate his time. I just don't get the sense that Paul wants to get into the transfer portal in the NIL world. I mean, if you're the head baseball coach at Miami, you almost work for John Ruiz. You have to go to the Life Wallet guy, who's a billionaire, and go have him pay all your players. Like, that's what you're going to have to do at Miami. And I just don't think a guy who spent 40 years coaching baseball one way is going to be super comfortable changing it all up. I know that he still burns really hot competitively. I know that he misses the game. I know that for sure. And Miami is his home. That's where he grew up. And so it's got to be attractive to take the interview. But I don't know that the state of college baseball right now is where Paul Maneri wants to spend time at his age and situation in life. So I'm going to leave it.
LA Country Club was too easy for a U.S. Open. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it. We don't have to play every U.S. Open or PGA on a 7,900-yard golf course with, tiny fairways and massive rough. Like, I'm okay with some variety in the golf and having a couple of short par fours, a drivable par four that a lot of guys make some birdies on, and having an 86-yard par three or whatever they had. Like, I'm okay with a little bit of variety that ends up at 10 under par. I don't need them shooting 62 every day and having the U.S. Open turn into the Wells Fargo. But like, I don't have to have every course, because they can make any course impossible. They can shrink the fairway to nothing, grow the rough up a million, bring them back to a bajillion yards, and tuck the pins, and the guys will never finish. But I don't think that's necessary. And we don't need to have greens bake out so the ball can't stop, so we're watering them between every hole. Like, it was tough enough. Fowler shot 75 on Sunday. Was it the most grueling in the history of the U.S. Open? No, it was not. It was the 18th fairway a little wide for my liking, or Wyndham Clark can hit a big wipey slice and it still stays in the fairway and he makes an easy par. That was not great. But as a whole, I thought the course was fine.
All right, last one here. Packers cornerback Jair Alexander said Jordan Love is the best quarterback in the league. Take it or leave it.
Go ahead and leave that one, Jair. Maybe you're right. He could be. I have not seen Jordan Love play in the NFL, but I'm just going to bet against that with a good amount of confidence at this point. Sorry, that's take it or leave it. Another check over in Omaha. Big strikeout there for Drew Dowd. Stanford did take their ace, Quinn Matthews, out of the ball game as Tennessee scratched for 4 in the 5th inning. Stanford went to their best reliever in Drew Dowd, who gets a strikeout with the bases loaded to keep it as a tie game. But we got a new ball game up there at Charles Schwab Field in Omaha. The Vols go for 4 in the 5th, so it is a 4-4 game as they head to the bottom half. If you missed any of our show today, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab. All our shows are listed there on the on-demand tab. You've got Off the Bench, you've got Live at Lunch, you got the Hunt Palmer Show, you got After Further Review. All of our sound archived there every day. If you'd rather go to one of your apps, you can do that. We're on Spotify, we're on Google, we're on Apple Podcasts. Search the Hunt Palmer Show. We'd really appreciate it if you like, subscribe, rate, review. All that helps us out. We're trying to get our content into as many earlobes as we possibly can. I would ask that you go to YouTube and subscribe to our channels. We've got Hunt on LSU and Hunt on Saints. Both of those are 100% football content. So if you haven't gone to YouTube and typed in Hunt on LSU or Hunt on Saints and subscribe, we'd appreciate it if you would do that next time that becomes available to you. On today's show, we talked LSU and Tennessee from Saturday for the first 30 minutes of the show. I talked about Paul Skenes and how he's now kind of moved into the top spot for me in terms of pitchers at LSU. I think he's the best. And we talked about LSU's offense and where that contribution is coming from. Hopefully, Braden Jobear's in one of those white-hot streaks that he can keep that rolling. Matt Trent from WBRZ joined us. Enjoyed our chat with Matt Trent. His first trip up to Omaha. He was a college baseball player. He's eating up with it, and he's having a blast. And we talked about LSU's transfer portal ad on the baseball side at 1:45. Previewed the Wake Forest Demon Deacons at the top of hour number 2. And at the bottom, Charles Hanagriff from Omaha. Appreciate Rev for making that possible. All right, we've done all we can do. Come on, Tigers. Get it done one time against Wake this evening. Let's get into the championship round of this bracket here in a couple of days. Matt Moscona is going to drive you home on After Further Review coming up next. We're back here, same time, same place tomorrow. 1 to 3 weekdays. The Hunt Palmer Show.